Okay, ladies. Welcome back. You know, my notes for session 2, we need to really pray. I'm going to try to get through session 2 in our allotted time, but if not, hold those thoughts because I'll finish it up then in session 3, which is, my notes are a little smaller for that. But session 2 is a big one. But before I launch into the topic of death that can come about through words, I want to show you, this is not a public service announcement. What do we have here? A Q-tip. I want to address cleaning your ears, along with taming the tongue. When my kids were little and I came out with the Q-tips, I'd see this. They knew, Q-tip ears, Q-tip ears. So that's what I hope we're thinking, Q-tip ears. But I have a Q-tip. I have 2 Q-tips that I want to give you. The first one is quiet. Know when to be quiet. Know when and how to listen. Listen attentively. And to listen with compassion and discernment. I asked Jeremy if I could tell a Jeremy story. He said, Mom, of course. But when he was little, just, and learning to talk and engage, and I was sewing, and he was playing underneath my sewing machine table with his Fisher-Price little animals, or people, whatever, bulldozers and little things like that. And I was sewing because I had to get this costume done for a school play. And he says to me, Mama, listen to me. And I'm going, I'm listening, sweetheart. Mama, listen to me. I said, Jeremy, honey, I'm listening. Mama, listen to me with your eyes. And I've never forgotten that, because what does that say? I had 2 ears, and I could hear everything he was saying, but he wanted my attention. The ears weren't enough, right? I needed to know in that moment to stop the sewing machine and pull myself away from it and get down on the floor under it with him, and eyeball to eyeball, and then he could tell me what he wanted to say. But do you see how easy it is to do that? Like, someone is talking to you and you're on your phone. I'm listening, or you give an answer that totally gives away that they weren't listening to what you said. Or you find out later that they never even heard the conversation because they asked the same question over. And it's like, so we really need to be cognizant of what it is to be a listener. The other Q tip is quit. Know when to quit. And I have a story that I want to tell on myself. Many years ago, this goes back to the early 80s. We had just moved into our neighborhood, and I had become friends with a girl around the corner. We walked together, and we had quite an active neighborhood of young moms, and we got together a lot. We went on walks together and spent a lot of time together. And there were some issues in the neighborhood with one of the women, and it was like everything, all of a sudden, our peaceful neighborhood, a Mr. Rogers neighborhood, it turns into a hornet's nest. And so, anyway, my friend Linnell came by to pick me up for our neighborhood walk just after I had been chewed out by this other neighbor who was known to have a very fiery temper and a scathing tongue. And it wasn't even, I was being accused of things, so falsely. Anyway, this neighbor, she wouldn't let me even respond to her. I couldn't even find a place to where we could get to a dialogue where we could reasonably have a conversation with each other. It was bizarre. And so after she slammed the phone down, it's like, and now I'm sitting here with all of this, and it's all, head to foot, I was a wreck. And Linnell comes and rings the doorbell, And I said, I am so glad, and I'm shaking, I am so glad we are going for a walk. I am so mad. I am really upset. Wait till you hear what so-and-so just did to me. And, last week she blasted Shirley. And 2 days before that, it was Donna. And now today she says, and you know what Linnell said to me? She just took my hand and she said, I can't listen to this. Well, it's going to be a long walk. Do you see the favor that she did for me? Now, it's not that I did need to process this stuff, but this was not the time, and she was not the person. And I was obviously upset, and she spent that 45 minutes on our walk. She mainly did the talking, and she didn't lecture me about things, didn't probe about the situation. I don't even remember what she said other than to relate to you that at the end of that walk, I was soothed. I was soothed. Now, the problem still existed, but my body, my mind, my spirit, they were soothed. And what she did was an enormous favor. It was such love shown to me. Plus, I learned a lesson. Do we have the courage when someone starts to unload to say, I can't listen to this? Gosh, that sounds kind of like cruel. Like, oh, this person needs to vent. Go ahead, dump it on me, That's a good analogy, actually, isn't it? Dumping, garbage truck. Are we garbage dumps? When you see the garbage truck pulling up down the street, do you just run out there and say, dump it on me? I think, that's disgusting. I think we need to be very careful about allowing conversations to take place that are not appropriate for the time or for the person. And there is a very gracious way to stop it. And may God give us the discernment and the courage and the gracious words to be able to handle those instances, because we don't plan for them, they just hit you. In the moment, we need to be ready. Because what she did for me was far greater than whatever could have come out of my venting. Listening is an art, my friends. Listening is an art. And in her refusing to listen to me, she taught me, go to God. Go to the Lord with this. She shielded herself from triangulation, but she taught me a very valuable lesson. So what does the Hofetz Haim say about listening? If a man hears anything improper, he should put his fingers in his ears. I mean, right? Really, it's hilarious how the sages come to this conclusion, and we don't have time to go into it here, but suffice it to say, and this is in the book, why are the fingers shaped like pegs? They are tapered at the end so that if he hears anything improper, he can insert his fingers in his ears. I love the rabbis. They're just so practical. So listen, we are always fully equipped. No excuses. We don't always have a Q-tip, but we've got these. Session 2 topic, Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. And session 2, we're going to be covering the death aspect of it. If our tongues are restless, and this comes from Taming the Tongue, if our tongues are restless, untamed, and rebellious, they will bring death. Mark Kinzer. I do have good news, ladies. Just found out from one of the ladies that Taming the Tongue is available on Amazon. Yeah. $15. There we go. Oh, great. Okay. Okay, so Yaakov, brother of Yeshua, he warned us that though the tongue is a small part of the body, look at how a whole forest can be set ablaze by a small spark. A few careless words and utter destruction, even death. Yeshua said, I'm going to save that for the next session. What does the Hofes Haim say? Put your fingers in your ears. What about Mama? What does Mama say? Can't say something good. Yeah. Don't say anything at all. Yeah, my husband uses that all the time. He calls it the thumper rule. Right? Yeah. But Mama, so from the book, Mama says, I can hear my mom, listen to this, huh? Are you listening? You can't lock the world's mouth, says Mama. When you say something out there, you can be sure that it's going to get around. And it probably will also be embellished. It'll probably be altered detrimentally in some way, and so be very, very careful what you say and to whom. So says Mama. Good advice, right? We have some specific snares we're going to cover today. And the first one is gossip. So the distinction between gossip and slander, it's funny, but the more you research it, the more you notice that there are so many varied definitions, and people, psychologists and experts draw the line between gossip and slander in so many different places, but we really don't have to agonize over it because both of them are on the list of prohibited speech, so whatever. Generally, they say gossip refers to the casual, unrestrained conversation or reports about other people. Could be false, could be true. It's basically talking about somebody else's private and personal business. Okay? Slander involves making false and damaging, unsupported statements about someone with the malicious intent to harm their reputation. Yeah. Taming the tongue, okay. Chapter 1 is on slander. One chapter is on slander, one is on gossip, and one is on negative humor. 1 Timothy 5 deals with issues of ministry, how to relate to people, elders, widows, and so forth, and the counsel is applicable to us. The warning is clear as the writer describes those who are gossips and busybodies, saying things that they ought not to say. Gossips and busybodies saying things they ought not to say. And also, quote, discussing things they ought not to mention. This is the warning for those in ministry. Pulling from Mark Kinsey's book, we're going to take a look at some important points. Speaking about other people's problems in a way that reflects their character or their competence. That's number 1 out of the 4 ways that talking about other people will land us in the gossip and busybody category. We don't want to end up in that category. But speaking about other people's problems in a way that reflects on their character or their competence. Speaking about other people's weaknesses. Yeah, their temptations, their sins. speaking about other people's private and personal affairs, speaking critically about various areas of other people's lives. Bottom line definition of gossip, according to Mark, is it's useless, silly, and critical speech about other people. Speech that diminishes the respect and esteem that others may have for them. It's so easy for people to jump on board, isn't it? To have something to add to it. Mama says, listen to this. Are you listening? Mama says, the story already has a long beard. Everyone adds a hair to it. Mark Kinzer says gossips are listed among Romans 1, that blood-curdling list of sins. He refers to it. Yeah. The blood-curdling list of sins, Romans 1, in there is gossip. These sins result in our refusal to worship and honor God. That's where it ends us up at. Wow. Refusal to worship and honor God, the Creator. Gossip is going to end us up there. Gossip is the sure sign that we are not worshiping and honoring our Creator God. Yeah? That's what Rav Shaul is saying. Gossip is listed along with, get this, unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice, insolence, arrogance, right? Talk about a garbage truck. Arrogance, boastfulness, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, persons without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, and unmerciful. Gossips. He also warns us in Ephesians 4:29, let no corrupt communication come out of your mouth. What does that mean? Not hard to understand. No corrupt communication. Proverbs 20, verse 19, do not associate with a gossip. He goes about just like a slanderer and reveals secrets. A gossip also generally fishes for details, manipulates conversations to get, the rest of the story or one more tidbit of information, to be the one on the inside with all the information, They have no problem probing for more, and sometimes in subtle ways, but sometimes with chutzpah. We must be on the alert for the deviousness of a gossip. Have you ever shared a personal concern in confidence with someone you thought was a trusted friend? Someone whose counsel you sought, someone whose prayer support you sought, only to discover later that your confidential information had spread throughout the community? Probably all of us have had that experience. To treat carelessly information that has been shared with us in confidence is to abuse that relationship. It is abusive. It shows ourselves unworthy of friendship. It's a colossal betrayal. A gossip cannot be trusted. But then we move on to slander. Number 2, it's a form of verbal aggression. It's a weapon, a deadly verbal weapon that targets somebody else. Proverbs 25:18, like a club and a sword and a sharp arrow is a man who bears false witness against his neighbor. You see, words are like deadly weapons. Jeremiah goes so far as to compare the slanderer's tongue to a poison arrow, a deadly arrow, a murderous arrow, in various translations. Some experts say slander can be related to true statements about someone, exaggerating, or they can be outright lies, true or lies, but the intent is always the same. and that is to destroy the reputation of the person about whom they are speaking. It's so evil. Proverbs 11:9, with their mouths the godless destroy their neighbors. Think about that, being a murderer, yeah? Slander puts us in the godless camp. Is that where we want to be? Do we want to be living out and exemplifying the virtues of the godless? We've got to stop slandering. Mark Kinzer differentiates between 3 uses of the word slander. He breaks it down in the Greek. And it's interesting. So I want to break these down for you. But the first one is katalelos, K-A-T-A-L-A-L-O-S, katalelos. It means speaking against. Yaakov, the brother of our master, said, do not speak against one another. Rav Shaul in Corinthians, he says, this is 2 Corinthians 12:20. He says, I am afraid that when I come, I won't like what I find, and you won't like my response. I'm afraid that when I come, I'll find quarreling, jealousy, anger, selfishness, slander, gossip, arrogance, and disorderly behavior. Wow. And then there's Shimon Kifa, 1 Peter 2:1. He says, rid yourselves of all ill will, all malice, all deception, hypocrisy, jealousy, and slander. That's just one word, katalelos. The second one is diabolos. Diabolos, do you see where that's going? Yeah, okay. There's a connection between evil speech and the evil one. 1 Timothy 3:11, addressing wives of those men who are serving in the church, must be worthy of respect and not slanderers, diabolos. They must be self-controlled and faithful in everything. 2 Timothy 3:1-4. But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come, for men will be, we've got another list. Lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, diabolos, without self-control, sometimes that goes together, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding to a form of godliness although they've denied its power. Here's the advice. Avoid these people. Healthy barriers, healthy boundaries are okay. But it takes wisdom to know how to set a healthy boundary. All right, Titus 2:3. Older women likewise are to be reverent in their behavior, not slanderers, diabolos. Yeah? The third one is blasphemia. It's interesting to go into either to the Greek or into the Hebrew, and they're the words so much more fully descriptive. Anyway, blasphemia, all right, blasphemy, denoting speaking against Hashem, although in the Brit Hadashah it can mean speaking against Hashem or a man or an angel. But Matthew 15:19 says, out of the heart come evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witnesses, and slanderers. They often go together also. Ephesians 4:31, all bitterness, anger, and wrath, shouting, and slander, blasphemia, must be removed from you along with all malice, evil intent. Colossians 3:8, the same with added to that list filthy language, dirty language, obscene language, abusive, foul language. You get the point. So there's that whole category. Why resort to that when we have such a beautiful choice of words and vocabulary? Why can't our words bring life? Why can't our words honor God and honor his name? Why do we have to resort to the foul? 1 Timothy 6, 3 and 4. Some people may contradict our teaching, he says, but these are the wholesome teachings of Yeshua. These teachings promote a godly life. Anyone who teaches something different is arrogant and lacks understanding. Having an unhealthy obsession with disputes and arguments over words produces envy, quarrels, slander, blasphemia, and all evil suspicions. Titus 3, 1 and 2. Rav Shaul exhorts Titus, remind the believers to be submissive to rulers and authorities, to obey and to be ready for every good work, to slander no one, to avoid contention, and to be kind, always showing gentleness to all people. In all these usages, we see that we're forbidden to speak about others in a way that destroys that person's reputation, that maliciously casts doubt and suspicion and presumed guilt upon someone else. Do we really want to partner with the evil one, the adversary, the accuser of our brothers? Remember the biblical account of Miriam and Aaron attacking Moses' marriage, right? And challenging his motives. And the severe consequences of their Lashon Hara. Is it ever okay or even imperative to speak out against someone? And the answer is yes. There are rare, specific, and limited situations, and we're going to cover them later. But yes, there is a place for that. One more scripture before we move on to number 3, though. Proverbs 10, verse 18. Hiding hatred makes you a liar. Slandering makes you a fool. With our speech, we can destroy somebody's reputation. We can cause suspicion. We can undermine the trust that other people have in him. We can set brother against brother in vile strife, and we can set a forest on fire in relationships and burn everything to the ground. So we're going to go on to the next form of difficult speech. Yes, please. Yes.
This may be a silly question, but it's just me. What's the difference between venting, not about someone, but about things, as opposed to slandering and gossip?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Get the Hofetzheim books. Yeah. Oh, okay. What's the difference between venting and slandering? Right? Yeah. You know, let's look at the heart. It's a heart issue. And how is it that we do it? First, we need to seek a trusted friend, okay? We need to have a trusted friend. If you don't have a trusted friend, pray for a trusted friend, someone that you can talk to, all right? Someone with wisdom, not someone who fits on the gossip busybody list, yeah. Someone that you can trust. Pray up first. Pray up and make sure your heart is right. I mean, my heart wasn't right when I was with Linnell. Pray up and make sure your heart is right, because there are times when we have serious concerns. And when your heart is right, when you are prayed up and you have a trusted friend and you seek their counsel, and it's for the purpose of building up, not for the purpose of getting him in trouble, exposing him, exposing her. What is the motive of your heart? Right? What is the motive of our hearts. See, the Lord looks on the heart. He knows. Yeah. I mean, do you know, we are so devious sometimes. We can be so sweet with our Lashon Hara. We can be just sicky sweet with it. God, help us. Reveal that to us. That's abhorrent to him. Because now that's two things that are wrong. The Lashon Hara is wrong, but we are portraying ourselves as someone we're not. Two big ones.
I was thinking of her answer too, of like, if I vent to the Lord, it's almost comical. But he can take it, but I can be like, and this, and this, and this, and this, and like he doesn't know, or doesn't know my heart, or doesn't, so then if I still need to vent, a trusted friend or somebody.
Can you say that again? Because I know that they're taping this, and that is really good.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if I vent to the Lord first and get all of that out, sometimes it's comical because I can just hear him speaking back of like, yes, I do know this, and yes, I do.
And I need to do that. I need to vent to the Lord, because I do vent to a couple trusted friends, and I'm not talking about people, I'm talking, well,
You're just getting it out.
maybe my husband, but, just, man, woman things, but I'm not gossiping, I'm not throwing him under the bus, if he just turned all those ears, anyway. But yes, I need to do that, because I know when I pray, there's times I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I even asking for this?
But it is important for you to ask. It is, because he already knows the pain and the sorrow in our heart and the things that we're dealing with. And he so desires to minister to us on that deep, deep level. And of course, we don't need to tell him what's going on. He already knows. But we need to tell him what's going on. And if it comes out in anger, or if it comes out, in sorrow, or if it happens to reveal our jealousy or whatever it is, he knows that already. And we can go to him. And you will find, my sweet sisters, oftentimes when we go first to him, we find out later, oh, I didn't need to call so-and-so. We settled it right here. We settled it right here. And the honor and the glory goes to who? To him. So there was a question back here. Yes. Your question?
And actually a statement,
Yeah.
and I apologize, my allergies decided to kick in today, fun. So Shmuel has talked often about the life model, and we've had them in to do trainings, and we've done books and that sort of thing. There is a book, I believe it's called Emmanuel Journaling, and once I realized, and I can't tell you exactly how it goes, but once I realized it, it follows along with Exodus 3, 7-10, where it's circles back to our logo. So it talks about the burning bush, but it's God sees, God hears, God knows. I believe the other thing is he has compassion for your weakness. Yeah. And then God's going to do something about it. So, but if you look at Exodus 3, 7-10, you'll see that pattern. But there's actually this Emmanuel journaling where you can sit down and write like literally journal, and you're praying and asking God, I see you sitting late at night writing in your journal, and I see the tears falling on your page. I've had this experience many times. I hear your thoughts, I hear what you're saying. So you go through that, and it is, and you can't second guess what pops in your head, because I really do believe that God is speaking to you in this. If you're honoring him and saying, I'm coming to you first. But look at Exodus 3, 7-10, and you'll see that pattern.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of journaling. Yes. Karen?
So I learned this 40 years ago, and I still do it, and it might sound crazy, but because I am verbal, but I'm also visual, is if I am distraught about something and need to vent, in addition to praying, I will put a chair in front of me, and I will speak to whomever, whether it's a friend in venting or the person that I'm angry with, and then I go sit in that chair, and give myself, just pray into and say, okay, if somebody came to me and just shared what I just spewed, what would be a godly response that I could share with them?
Wow.
And that doesn't always, but it helps diffuse before I dump on someone else. But it also helps me clarify my thoughts, because sometimes what's rambling, when we actually give physical words to it, we can hear our own sin, our pain, what is right. And words have so much power out there. But to put ourselves into the place of the person that we're angry at, or the person that could minister, I have found great help with that.
Wisdom. This is wisdom, ladies. This is wisdom. I am so thankful that you're willing to be open and share your experiences. This is so helpful. Yes, one more.
I'm wondering about something. I've been told that if you want to like vent, you use iMessages, and yeah, I might say to somebody, when you said something to me or you did something to me, I felt disrespected, and I'm wanting to walk the right way with that. Do you have any how does that play with
Well,
you?
yes. Well, and we're going to get into that a little bit later, but it's always more effective when you need to address a difficult subject to use the I words instead of the you words. Like, you always, okay, well, that's going to go nowhere. Good. You always, yeah. Why do you, right?
Or use Wade.
What?
I had to alter when I started to write every morning to my people. I would say, you don't want to do this, and the Lord had been correcting me for 4 years. No, we do not want to do this.
We.
When you're like this, no, our problem can be, you just have to.
That's right. That's right. Because otherwise it sets you up as the authority. I'm better than you, and I know more than you, and right then and there you've lost your audience. So these are great, great principles. Let's see. Okay, so we're going on to the third troubling thing here. Grumbling. Ooh. Grumbling, complaining, let's just say kvetching. Yeah, right? Okay. So we're talking about the habitual complainer, the whiner, the griper, the nag, okay? It's hard to be around a grumbler. Yeah? The glass is always half empty, or worse. Grumblers are joy robbers, okay? They rain on everybody's parade and they burst every happy bubble. They defend their sour attitude often by saying, I'm not a complainer, I'm a realist. Right? Okay, well, dear Lord, give us wisdom to be able to respond to this. These people need help. Right? Like all of us. Absolutely. We're going to look to the Word for some real outlooks on life here that are healthy and wholesome and godly. Rav Shaul, Philippians 2, 14 and 15. Again, do all things without grumbling or disputing. And if you check different translations, you get murmuring, arguing, So it's like, oh, well, I don't grumble. Oh, wait, no. And why do we do all things without grumbling and disputing? It's so that you can prove yourself to be blameless. This is not perfection, but to prove yourself to be blameless and innocent, children of God, above reproach in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you will shine as lights in the world. You will definitely stand out in this generation if you can rise above the tendency to complain and argue. Our society has become so divided on so many different levels. Not only is there a lot to argue over, there's a lot to complain about. And living in the misery of our disappointments or our difficulties shouldn't be the norm. Living in the misery of it, all right? Grumbling and complaining are contagious. They spread, they infect other people, they make no room for faith and hope in Hashem, where we thrive and inspire. I was asked to have lunch with someone recently and talk through, through some issues, and it just didn't start off well. And this person said to me, well, as you know, I'm going through a lot of things, and the last thing I need is prayer and Bible verses. And I don't need another book or journal. And do you see the heart problem here? Yeah. Mm-hmm. The response was a lot like my friend Linnell. I learned from Linnell. No Bible verses. I didn't offer a book. I had a book. Kept it in my purse. I respected what she demanded. She had invited me to lunch, so I respected what she demanded. But ladies, there are ample creative ways of elevating the name of the Lord without even really saying things. We can find, because they know Bible verses too, so you can kind of allude to things. Yes, there are ample ways to do it. I did. In that moment, I said, Abba, help me. Quietly. And he did. And really, the conversation ended very well. And the points that I had prayed about before, I was able to deliver to her, and they were worded entirely differently. But that's the power of the word, isn't it? Yes.
I had a similar experience where I was trying to talk to one of my children and not bring up anything about, Christianese or any of that. And it was,
Thank you.
it was amazing that, oh, it was,
Is it on? Where is Amy?
Yeah.
I saw her change out the battery.
Oh.
Hello?
I tried to tell you that.
Yeah. Please.
Oh, it's. Wow, quit. Don't tell me. Anyway, yeah, I was trying to talk to one of my children without using any, Christian or scriptural or anything. And, I was in prayer about it, of course. And God just gave me the most amazing things to say that I would have never thought about. I would have never thought.
Yeah.
So, we can really trust him in those times. This is the big deal.
Yeah.
To trust him and
To
believe.
trust him. Yes. Is he able?
Oh, yeah.
He is able. Thank you for sharing that. If you doubt the seriousness of what's a little grumbling, if you doubt the seriousness of this sin, then we need to reread the biblical account of the spies who scoped out the promised land and the consequences of their bad report. Timely, right? That we're meeting within this time frame. And so grumbling and complaining have consequences. What happened when the Israelites complained about the water or the lack of water? the manna, no meat, right? So the heinous habitual sin of grumbling will not only bring harm to the grumbler and misery to those in her company, but it can also pose the risk of robbing families, congregations, workplaces, and neighborhoods of real joy. That's how it spreads. The joy of the Lord is our strength. We read that in Nehemiah 8:10. So if we're not able to operate in the joy of the Lord because of complainers, the contentious, they've set a tone in our group, then we're going to operate in weakness. Where there is no joy allowed because the complainer takes over, we will be operating in weakness. We will not be able to be as effective as we could be as a group or as a congregation because we will be disgruntled and nitpicking and joyless and burdened, and we'll just be putting out little fires all over the place. Grumbling is often the verbal expression of a judgmental attitude, right? And a heart of ingratitude, right? Ungratefulness, right? Taking blessings for granted, a lack of appreciation, gripe, gripe, gripe. Mama says, are you listening? Mama says, if you don't have what you like what you have. Accept it, be grateful, done. Don't want to hear about it anymore. So you can pray for your circumstances to change, of course. But until they do, and maybe they never do, we can still find the place of peace in the midst of circumstances we just don't like. In a hard time. Yet there is the peace of God. Oh my goodness, it's amazing how we can find his presence in the midst. Pray for contentment. He will hear this prayer. It's a learning experience. But the reason I say that is because Rav Shaul him said in Philippians 4:11, I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. You learn contentment. You're not born with it. Right? We choose to live a life of gratitude. Some of the underlying issues that cause ingratitude, ungratefulness, would be like jealousy, right? Jealousy, covetousness, I want what you have, I want to be you, or arrogance. When you're arrogant, hey, nothing pleases you. Or we have expectations, and our expectations need to be met. Or we're selfish, or whatever. All kinds of underlying issues that allow ingratitude to be present in our lives. That's got to go. It's true, that others can bring us down by their negativity, but we have to admit that we can be pretty negative on ourselves. Okay? Negative self-talk is number 4. As I talk to women in all different circumstances and all stages of life, I see that negative self-talk is a big problem in our lives, and I think it warrants attention. This type of talk, listen, it takes us down, ladies. It is toxic. Do you ruminate over things in your mind? Yeah, do you stew over it? That's my word. I'm stewing today. I'm stewing. Oh, it's so dishonoring to God. But I know, stewing over my words and actions, I regret it. I always end up regretting it. I'm able to forgive other people their sins much more freely than I can forgive myself, right? Years ago, I read a biblically based book on negative self-talk. It hit me hard because I really needed it. And, I'd say things to myself like, oh, I'm so stupid. Or, even this morning, I did the same thing. I never push the right button. If there's a wrong button to push, I'll push it. I'm such a klutz. I can't do anything right. I'm a loser. Why do I even try? We say these things to ourselves, and, it's actually proven if you say something over and over again enough times, you start to believe it. And you really begin to believe a crazy misrepresentation of yourself that is not who God sees when he looks at you. Because he sees someone different, and he wants you to see yourself through his eyes, not to see ourselves through the eyes of the enemy of our souls, who is always accusing us. We're never good enough. Never, never, never is it enough. We need to choose to go the way of the Master. He says in Luke 6:45, a good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good, right? An evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. Out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaks. Negative self-talk is a heart problem. If we don't believe what he says about us, we will not be able to ever see ourselves correctly. We reinforce in our minds the lies that the enemy works so craftily and relentlessly to plant. All forms of complaining and negative self-talk are a heart problem. They easily become bad habits. And left unchecked, they will lead to something worse, something darker, and that's a critical spirit. I'm going to get through the critical spirit, and that's only 5 out of 10. But, and then we're going to take our break. Do we have 5 more minutes? Okay, good. Critical spirit. Ooh, we can become severely judgmental. We can become entrapped. It's kind of like we can't help it, right? This is not from Hashem. The Chofetz Chaim elaborates extensively on the Yetzer Hara, right? Evil inclination in us and our propensity to give in to that. It's such a lure. Here we have let ourselves habitually partner with the accuser in a critical spirit, the father of lies. Our motive, as one with a critical spirit, our motive has become deeply, relentlessly malicious to destroy a certain relationship or person or reputation or ministry or whatever. We become almost like obsessed with it, and it will not stop short of utter demise. It goes in for the kill. Our critical spirits fill our hearts as the enemy of our souls, feeds our egos. We get these delusions of self-importance, right? It feeds our lust for power and recognition, and we soar in our own eyes as we put other people down. They're beneath us. We're shrouded in darkness when we exemplify this behavior. A critical spirit has a stranglehold upon the hearts and minds of those who have opened themselves to it. We don't have to go there, ladies, right? And there's a reason that we are cautioned in 1 John 4:1 to test the spirits. What is not of Hashem, we must vehemently reject. Because a critical spirit left unopposed will eventually blind us to truth. All truth. So, okay. Proverbs says it rather succinctly. Don't be stupid. Don't believe all you hear. Be smart and know where you are headed. Grumbling, complaining, kvetching, toxic negativity are headed to entrapment. All right. That is Proverbs 14:15. Yeah. So you want to know what Mama says? We'll close on this. Are you listening? A person is liable to be his own worst enemy. Okay, we're going to close now, ladies, and I'll pick up where I left off when we get back after lunch. Special thanks, really, to Kathy and everyone who has pulled this together. You know, this is a lot of work.